Welcome, welcome. Okay, today is the 8th of April, 2022. Friday. I love Fridays. Not the greatest day around here today. We've just had really terrible weather for quite a while now. It's just been overcast, and we had a little bit of precipitation today, snow and rain, and it's just generally cold and icky. April showers bring May flowers, and my morale is suffering somewhat, and I have a cold too. So it's complaining, whining. All right, tonight, being Friday, we set Fridays aside and call it Open Line Friday, and open the lines up to talk about the stuff that you guys would like to talk about. For subjects this week, I wanted to talk about biochar because this is the time of the year. If you're going to be serious about your homesteads coming up for this growing season, biochar is a real force multiplier. It gives you a huge advantage. Whether you are the person that's going to grow some tomatoes on the porch or you're the full-blown row crop guy, biochar is a great thing for you to be doing. You don't hear a lot about it, and I think that's intentional. It is a fantastic product. We did a little bit of a search to see what it's going for. And there's about 10 or so products out there that look pretty interesting. What I would be looking for if I was going to buy it is I would want to buy hardwood biochar. And then I'd want to know the status of whether or not it's been inoculated. You kind of need to know that. That's pretty critical. And what I mean by inoculated is, has it been doused with anything? You could inoculate it with rat poison, or you could inoculate it with a microbial agent. It could be pond water. Pond water would be pretty good. We've used quite a few things. Yesterday we inoculated some of it with just water, with just H2O. And our water here is not city water, so it's not treated with chlorine or fluoride or anything like that. So it's still alive. It's coming out of our well. And so that's not a bad way to go too. It's not as great as it could be. I think pond water would be a lot better. It's got a lot more nutrient in it. Nice green and brown. So anyway, that's what we talked about yesterday and the day before. I thought there was a pretty good video that was put up on the tribe today. The Barn Geek put it up, and it's a gasifier that he's building. I watched it and listened to it, and I thought it was really interesting. I got to have me a gasifier too. I got to do it. Now, the retorts that we build, they're specifically designed. This one that you see behind me is specifically designed to make biochar, right? But if your goal is to collect and harvest the gas, the wood gas coming off, it'd be a slightly different design. The one that Aaron built, I haven't seen it operate yet, but I'm looking forward to that because I need one. I really want to have one. I think it would be really neat. Okay, so what can you do with wood gas? The one that Aaron is building is designed to run a 200 cubic centimeter reciprocating engine. I think it's cubic centimeters. It wouldn't be cubic inch, would it be? No, it wouldn't be cubic inch. It would be cubic centimeters. All right, so it'd be like a motorcycle, an enduro motorcycle engine, I think. Let's see if Aaron comes in. We can ask him that. But without further ado, I'm here to talk about what you guys are interested in. We got Lenny. We got Inga. We got the abundant living babe. What do you guys want to talk about tonight? What do you want to talk about? I mean, we can always talk about prepping. We can always talk about the state of affairs in the United States. We can do that. We could talk about the bird flu. That's kind of an interesting subject. Whatever you want. We could talk about the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer. The 4 guys that were accused of that, 2 of them it was declared a mistrial, and 2 of them were declared innocent today. So there were more FBI agents involved in that plot to kidnap the poor governor than there were others, right? So it was kind of a sad situation. I don't think that anybody was going to kidnap anybody, actually. I think from the looks of the guys, they were just kind of like, maybe they got a phone call. Hey, you want to come to an Amway meeting? Oh, you mean we're going to kidnap the governor here? So it sounded like it was sort of a January 6th type thing. But whatever. Part of the movie, we've got to endure it. I am more and more convinced that this is just a script that's being played out. And I'm still optimistic. I mean, my optimism hasn't waned at all through this. I mean, even when you see somebody come out that is supposedly telling us just how bad it is, it just doesn't. I don't know. I'm just not buying it. Just not buying it. These guys don't seem to be able to get anything done. All right. Okay. So I got a couple things. Bird flu, bird flu, probably. So we want to talk about bird flu. Then I got a quick question here from the Finster. Can you feed spent grains to meat chickens? You know, Mike, I have never done that, but I would. I would not hesitate to do it and see how it works out. You know, see if they, if you've got 2 pens of them, like 2 chicken tractors, feed the spent grains to one, and just whatever your feed supply is to the other. See what happens. I don't think it's going to hurt them. The question is it going to meet their nutritional needs for the quick growth? I don't know. Bird flu solutions, according to Inga, would be chicken masks. Yeah. Well, you want to talk about this. You want my take on this? My take is I am completely petrified of bird flu, and I'm going to call the 800 number that they gave in MLive, the newspaper that tells the truth all the time. I know because they've interviewed me and they always tell the truth. And I'm going to call that number, and I'm going to see if I can get them out here to take samples to do a test on my chickens to determine whether or not they have the bird flu or not. Yeah, I'm going to get that done right away. Sure, I'm scared. I don't want the bird flu around here. Can you imagine that? This is going to be worse than the Wu flu. Yeah. April Fools. No. Let them take their best shot. It's almost like it's a half-baked attempt at causing chaos, and they're almost hanging their head in shame doing it, it seems like nobody believes you guys anymore. MLive, of course, it's a newspaper that we have here in Michigan, and it's like the Detroit Free Press and stuff. It's sort of the communication arm of the the deep state players. There's good people that work for the state. We need people working for the state. We do. Keeping track of things, fixing things, making things, lining up things. We do need that. We need that infrastructure, but we've got a high amount of parasitic dirtbags that work in our state, and not only our state, all the states, and they seem to commandeer everything, right? But today, like this trial that finished up today for these suspected uh, kidnappers, Governor Whitmer kidnappers, didn't work out. I'm sure Governor Whitmer, she's definitely a deep stater, and her ilk are from the deep state. They would have loved to see these guys put away, because then they can say, see, we have an enemy, and it's you people, it's you dissidents, and you're going to get it next. But it didn't work out. Like, even the courts are saying, gee, we can't, and the courts aren't exactly rife with integrity, I can tell you that. But it's kind of going over to the other side. There was a story that came out today of a county clerk in one of the bigger counties. I believe it was Monroe County, maybe, but it was one of the big counties. And he was arrested today on federal charges. All right, so did you ever see the movie The Untouchables? It was about the crime syndicates in the bigger cities, and the city that we were talking about here in that movie was Chicago, and the crime syndicates seemed to be running everything. They had the courts, they had people in the police department, everything. And then this group of guys came in, and they were able to work their way in, and they actually put Capone in jail. And the network, the crime network, started to falter badly and fall apart. For a time, it was on its ear, and then Prohibition ended, and things realigned and all that. But they were, it was Elliot Ness that was up against them, and they were thought to be untouchable by the crime syndicate. You couldn't get to them. But at one point, there was a scene where actually one of the hitmen for the crime syndicate got a hold of one of the police officers in a elevator and killed him, brutally killed him, and then wrote on the wall, touchable, in his blood. And we're seeing sort of that now. I mean, some of these bigger counties in Michigan are really bad. I mean, they're really bad. They have some really bad people working in them that use the county. It's sort of like money is collected via taxes, and it is funnels through them. They take what they want, and then they pass it on. There's a lot of criminality in government. You guys know that. But as it starts to fall, people aren't going to cover for each other to try and save their hides. I mean, criminals aren't known for high integrity amongst each other. So I think that's what's going on right now. I really do. There's a guy that I listen to once in a while. He's one of my mystics. You guys could check him out. His name is Brad Johnson. And it's a little weird, all right? I got to admit, it's a little weird. But, there's really nothing on YouTube anymore. All the good people that were on there that you could listen to, they're all gone. They just take them off. They just censor them. And you got to wonder why they censor them. But the mystics, like the Janines and Jean-Claude, those guys, they leave them, I think, because people discount what the mystics say, because they're mystic. They wear crystals and beads and everything, and they're not to be taken, and they're not huge channels anyway. But this guy Brad Johnson is very adamant about what he's saying, that this is all a movie, and we heard about that from our number 17 counterpart, which from the beginning sounded to me like military intel trying to interface with the civilian population. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, we're watching this. and you got to decide who's lying and who's telling the truth. So we used to have this feeling like, oh, let's go and see what old Sean Hannity has to say. But I think that guy lies through his teeth. I think he has for a long time. He may pump it up, for the Republican Party. But I saw a thing with him today. I was listening to a podcast, and it was on autoplay. He came on, he was interviewing Sean Penn, right? And Sean Penn just happened to be in Ukraine doing a documentary. And Sean Penn was, how courageous Zelensky is. He's one of the most courageous men I've ever met. He was a comedian, but now he's the president of the country. And Sean Penn, if you think he's believable, but this podcast starts out, Sean Hannity and Sean Penn, they establish we don't like each other very much. He would never come to my show. No, I don't trust you, Sean Hannity. And so they establish that they don't like each other. But then they wind up agreeing and taking you down this road. And you're like, well, they're both agreeing on it. I guess Putin's a bad guy. So I don't know. I just don't. Maybe I'm getting smart, but I can see through their BS. I can see through their BS. There was a guy. Oh, what the heck is his name? This was kind of interesting, actually. If you want to get the feel for what I'm talking about, someone sent this to me. I think it could have been Hildy. No. So it was probably Debbie Van Fosson. Yeah, Debbie sent me the Ice Age Farmer bird flu. It's worth listening to. Gee, where the heck is this? No, not there. Could have been Keith Sutton. No. 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 Okay, well, I can't find it right now. But let's see. All right, well, I can't find it. But anyway, it was a guy who was being interviewed by a very conservative truth type gal, and she allows him to have the floor. And the first thing I noticed about him, he's wearing glasses, and it looks like window panes. They're totally flat. So when he turns his head, and I'm like, that's a prop. He's got glasses on for some reason, and it's a prop. They're not concave lenses. And then he goes on and on about how many renditions of the Hunter laptop that he has and how much stuff he's unlocked and this and that. And he says, that's it. I'm releasing it to the public. I'm releasing it to the world. I gave it to the FBI. They didn't do it. I gave it to this one. He didn't do anything. All these guys that you have in Congress, I gave it to them. They haven't done anything with it. He's going on because I'm releasing it. And as if that is that's it. It's going to break it loose. And Sleepy Joe is going to have to give account for it and all this stuff. But then at the end, he lays into people better wake up. And y'all better do something. You got to get off your butts. You got to do something. You got to get involved. Whenever they resort to that, to me, it sounds like somebody at a crash scene yelling, somebody call an ambulance. It's like, okay, we're awake. Now what? It's sort of like Tucker Carlson. He comes out with a lot of good stuff, but never any solutions. It's always just, can you believe this? This is where we are right now. This is how screwed up our country is. And when you hear that, sometimes you're like, gee, all that's really left is, start shooting, and that's not really the way to proceed. We have to proceed with a plan, and for people that are into doing what we do, we are doing what we're supposed to do. We're bolstering the food supply, right? We're doing what we're supposed to do. Of course, we're going to communicate, and we're going to up channel things to people who need to know, but to rely on the deep state to fix itself, that's not going to happen. And I think they're doing everything they can right now to create chaos everywhere. And sadly, I've not seen, of elected officials, I've not seen any solution orientated people. In Washington, no, not really. You see a lot of people that say, yeah, this is what's happened. Can you believe this? Da, 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 da. And he said this, and then said, can you believe this is happening? I don't believe this. They're so wrong. Those guys are so bad. But never any solutions. I was telling you about the guy here in the House of Representatives that wants me to get behind him. He wants me to endorse him for Speaker of the House. And he's just telling me how bad the other side is. If we don't do something soon, we're going to lose this country. We need to. But you look at his record, and it's like, what have you done? There's plenty you could do, but you don't do anything. You just want the next job. So I believe that the movie that we're watching, there is a very small cadre of criminals, of the Kazarian mafia, they call it, right? And it's Ukraine used to be called Kazaria, right? Okay, and I believe that very small group has been extinguished, and now there is no leadership, so they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. A lot of their dollars have been taken. A lot of their money-making schemes have been squashed. And the statement that we heard from the 17th letter, nothing can stop what is coming, I believe that is true. I believe it, right? Because, okay, we can take to the streets. I took to the street today. I went down there, screamed my head off. It didn't do anything. And it's not going to. It has to be, it's an army against an army. And we've been told from the beginning that there is an alliance. And why would there be the 17th letter calm with the civilian population, which I am a part of? I am not military. They calm with us because we are going to be the ones that say, okay, this is what happened. We've been following this for a couple years now. Here's what's happening, you all, right? I do think that. And, you see the mainstream media attack. They call it QAnon. So there really is no such thing as QAnon, right? But they attack it, and they make anybody, who does something stupid like drunk driving, oh, you must be QAnon then. And whenever they're that fervent about attacking something, or they're that lockstep about anything, there's got to be a good reason. It must be a threat to them. I believe the 17th letter was a threat to them, is a threat to them. I don't think this is just a 2-year operation or a 5-year operation. I think it's a 50-year operation that's going on. And it's just coming to fruition now. And we're going to see tough times, because as these criminals are taken down, they're going to create as much havoc as they can. That's what they'll do. And that's what they're doing right now. I mean, you look at what the Biden administration is doing, and it seems quite obvious that they're trying to screw things up, right? That's the only card they have to play. And it almost seems as though somebody let them. Somebody let them steal the election. We all know. And now look what they're doing. And now we've got, the parasite departments are going to do the bidding. We'll see, though. We'll see how fervent they're going to be. Like, especially in this state, what will happen? You know that they want to close down poultry. They want to get their hands on protein. They do not want us. And poultry is the one that they can go after now. They tried going after pork before. They didn't get that done. Now they're going to go after poultry. So they're saying, oh, we have a problem. The bird flu. The bird flu, that's a problem. And then now you all are supposed to react, oh no. And then they'll say, well, here's the solution. And you're supposed to say, yep, kill them, burn them. That's what you're supposed to say. That is what they are trying to do to you right now, right? And when you listen to Ice Age Farmer, you almost kind of wonder, like, dude, you're not explaining this so these people can understand it. You're almost making them feel like, hey, these guys are going to succeed. They're going to get it done. But they never get it done. They never do. Because they're always up against a small group of Americans that don't give up. They don't give up easy. And we are actually guarded against this. You never would think, if you read down through the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution, we should all do that. You should all do that. You should do it like every day. You should have a copy of it right there by the toilet, so you can, go down through it, or use it as a bookmark in whatever you're reading and go down through it. Now, notice they don't do that in state schools. I wonder why, right? They don't do that at universities. They also don't talk about biochar at universities. I wonder why, right? It's because they're pressing a communist agenda. That's why. But if you read down through that, my mind takes me to the revolution and what was going on during the revolution. And it was written to prevent those things from occurring again. And you would never think that, well, the Bill of Rights protects me against a rogue scientific agency, and I put that in air quotes if you guys are listening to this, not watching me, because they are. They're pseudoscience. I mean, their science now is almost like a religion to them. It's just whatever is the latest thing, and the Green New Deal now makes it sound like, oh, if we quit eating meat, we'll save the planet. No matter how we get there, it's worth doing. And we'll go down in history as the Department of Agriculture scientists that saved the planet by getting rid of all them nasty chickens that were probably farting and causing global warming, right? And they're weak-minded people that believe this stuff. But unfortunately, there's not enough of us that have paid attention to it for a long enough time to kind of look at them and say, you guys out of your mind. But honestly, if this bird flu thing goes where I believe it's going, I mean, that's their plan. Whether they'll have the chutzpah to take it there. Some states already have, according to Ice Age Farmer, and it does line up with some other stories that I've read. They've already stopped chicken production. And they're saying that, well, if you have some chickens, you can keep them, but then they stop selling them at the store. They stop the stores, which we know they have control of the stores through various means. You will make all your people wear masks in the store. You will enforce social distancing. You will put these stickers on the floor, and the stores do it. You will not sell chickens anymore. Okay. They'll do it, right? So how do we proceed? How do we proceed? All right. You got to look at this in some ways like Prohibition. Prohibition in no way was about the health of the country. They don't care about your health. They don't. They care about how much money they can take from you. And then they care about the agenda of, like, John Paul Getty. J.P. Getty, very powerful man. He did not want a bunch of small distilleries going that were going to make fuel, alcohol, to be used in agriculture, because he wanted everybody buying oil. He wanted to get the oil thing going. So that's what Prohibition was all about. They don't care if you drink this stuff. That's why, bootleggers were able to kind of come and go. This is just for person. This is just what we're going to dump down people's throats. And then they'd have a photo op of them breaking kegs of beer, of course. And, yuck, yuck, yuck. The G-men would put on a good, photo op, and that'd be it, right? That's what Prohibition was. So during Prohibition, well, the Kennedy family made all their money during Prohibition because they saw it as a great opportunity, right? So what we're heading into right now, in my opinion, bring me up on charges if I'm lying here, but in my opinion, what I think we're heading into, what the Department of Ag is going to press here pretty soon, is chicken prohibition. Yeah, they don't want you to have chickens. They don't want you to have chickens because they're concerned about your health. No, you can't catch bird flu. Oh, yeah. If a sparrow comes and touches beaks with one of your chickens that's got bird flu, it could infect the eagles. And then the eagles won't make any more albums, and we won't be able to listen to rock and roll. That's what they're going to tell you, right? They always do. That was the whole thing with you couldn't bait deer anymore because of chronic wasting disease. And they said, well, if a deer touches the nose of a cow through the fence or a horse, these guys call themselves scientists. They actually call themselves scientists. If that happens, then we could get chronic wasting disease in the cows, and then no more hamburgers, and everybody gets freaked out. But they're not really scientists because they come up with cockamamie things like that, like the feral swine thing. If there isn't a problem, they're going to create a problem because they've gotten so big, and it's these departments, a bunch of people with nothing to do all day, right? And they're overfed and underworked, and this is what we have. We wind up with a bunch of fat parasites is what you have, And I personally, I think that towards the end of the movie, you're going to see a lot of them getting pink slips and have to go out and actually work, like I live in a working community. People either work farms here or they go into town and work, or guess what? Don't eat. But then we have certain members of our community that work for these parasitic organizations. They drive around their little cars with their laptops and pretty much just bust people's balls. And they're eating better than everybody. They're doing much better than everybody. And people are sick and tired of that because they say what they're doing is food safety or the safety of the flock. But, we're starting to know who you are. There's a lot of talk in the community about who you guys are, right? Whether you're talking safety or the health of the bird community, the wild bird community, or the safety of baby ducks and all that stuff with the feral swine thing. People are starting to figure out who you are. And there was another thing that we heard early on from the 17th letter. And I wonder if this is going to apply because he said, or Intel said, a time is coming when these people will not be able to walk the streets. And I've thought about that a lot. You know, I've known who these people are for a long time. And I'm one person, and I'm one person capable of all kinds of things, right? Very capable person. However, they're not walking the streets because I am lurking behind every lamppost. No, I'm a restrained person, right? I'm a restrained person. And most of us, the non-parasites, are restrained persons. But the parasite has no point of reference on that because they commune with other parasites, right? And they are some of the most fearful people that walk the planet. And I think it's their own fear that they have used as a weapon against us. Food safety. If it wasn't for me driving around this little black car, you all would be sick and die from listeria. Right? They really believe that they're saving the world, you know? But they're fearful. They're fearful. And I think what's going to prevent them from walking the streets is their fear, their own fear. Because the working man doesn't have time for that crap. We really don't. We just press on with what we're doing. The fields are ripe for harvest right now. I don't have time for that. Revenge? I don't have time for that. Why would I do that? I don't think any of us would. I mean, I've never heard people sit around and say, you know what, let's get that son of a bitch. I've never heard that. I have never heard it. I have heard people talk about making videos about these people, following around, watch what they do or what they don't do. I've heard of that. But I've never seen anybody actually move on it, right? So that's what I think about the bird flu. The bird flu is the Wu flu, is feral swine, is you name it. They have come up with something in order to present you with a solution. And the solution is really what they want to give you. But they first have to come up with a problem. And if you read their literature on the bird flu, they'll point to the fact that 3,000 birds have been euthanized, and that is the fact they point to convince you that 3,000 birds have gotten the H1N1 or whatever it is they're calling it now, the bird flu, whatever it is. That's their proof, and they're using the same test that they use to see if you've got the Wu flu. Same test. So they can test it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're going to get it sooner or later. And if you're dumb enough to call them up and say, you know what, I think my chickens are drinking less than they usually do, oh, they'll accommodate you. Like if you get a cold and you say, is this it? You know, I got a cold from Frank. Frank went to a birthday party. Frank came home a couple days later. He got a cold. A couple days after that, I got a cold. I never once thought, geez, I better get in Cadillac to the hospital, do a CPR test on me or whatever it is. I never thought that. It just never crossed my mind because I've discounted this thing a long time ago. I've actually discounted them a long time ago. I don't listen to their bullshit anymore. I really don't. And it seems as though when I read it, I can say, that's manure right there. Excuse my language, Inga and Lenny and Mike. I just know it when I see it. I know they're BS when I see it. They're trying to manipulate people with this bird flu, get people scared. There's always been, ever since I have been in the farming business, there has been an onslaught against the small farmer who seems to be doing quite well these days, and never really any pressure against these facilities like the one north of me that they actually call a farm. It's not a farm. It maybe they can classify it that way so they can make everybody miserable by spraying manure every place and running the roads with heavy vehicles when other people can't. But they get no pressure from the departments. Small farms do. Small farms do. You can bet that they'll pick, if they're going to do this in Michigan, what they'll do is they'll pick a big facility and they'll go in and they'll say, we'd like to test your, and behind the scenes, they're like, well, if you find it, what then? Well, we're going to compensate you with taxpayer money, $10 per bird. Oh, well, that's more than we make if we sell them. Go ahead. And they'll wipe them out, euthanize them, spend a whole bunch of money to get, they'll classify it as hazardous waste, and they'll spend a whole bunch of our tax-paying money, and then they'll point back to it and say, see, we had to euthanize 500,000 birds. It's gotta be real, if we had to euthanize these birds. But then if you do a FOIA on it, you're going to get the CPR tests or the, what they are. That's not CPR, whatever, you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's my thought on bird flu. That's my thought. And, we've just dealt with this too many times. Okay, I've got to back up here, and I've got to read some of these. Okay, good. The Barden Geek's with us. How about the coming food shortage and the price increases? Here, you want to know what I believe? You're asking me. I don't think the food shortages are going to be what they're telling you they're going to be. Notice what they do is they give you the worst case scenario, and it creates what? Fear in some people. In us, it's creating motivation. Oh, well, it's going to put in a couple more rows of raspberries this summer anyway, so maybe I'll put in 4, right? It motivates us, and that's what it should do. We should use it as a way to motivate it, because when industrial agriculture, which is failing, when all of a sudden it is deemed illegal to take money from me to give it to a failing business, right? When that happens, they end. And there's going to need to be food. There will always need to be food for people. And we see this administration, which I don't really think, I don't really think it's a real administration anyway. But you see them saying, hey, get ready to get hungry. There's going to be food shortages. Instead of saying, let's all the small farms ginned up here. If there's any CPR land, CRP land, let's get it in production. You don't see Sleepy Joe saying that. They're saying, get ready for austerity conditions. And austerity is always a precursor for not good things, right? Not good things. So they're preparing you for austerity measures, right? So what should you do? Say, not me. I'm not going into austerity measures. No. I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to buy a little extra. I'm going to put it on pallets, wrap it up. I'm going to have a little extra, and then I'm going to get sustainable. I do not want to rely on you, dirtbags, ever again, because you are manipulatable. I'm not going to rely on you anymore. All right. So that's what I do. That's what we should do. Right. And that's what we are doing. I live here in this community. We've got a school in town. It's called McBain Agricultural School. And I almost would like to go in there and say, can somebody explain this to me? I've had kids go to this school. You don't teach them anything about agriculture. Oh, how to subtract and add? Yeah, right. There needs to be, our little Anyone Can Farm Institute. I'm starting to see a lot more of that, and that is a good sign. I listened to Jack Spirko a little today, and he was talking about Paul Wheaton. You guys know about him? I've been listening to him for years. He's got this site called Permies, and he does all kinds of cool stuff, all kinds of cool things. He's a guy about my age, and he's just always doing neat things, wood stove things and gasifiers and um, rocket stoves and developing wells and springs and all kinds of cool things. You guys should check him out. But he's got sort of like a tribe day, like we have, but it's been going on longer and it's gotten bigger. And I think it's a destination. It's sort of like what Mother Earth News used to be. Mother Earth News has turned into a like a a pretty radical left social justice warrior type thing. So it's been co-opted actually, and it's too bad because Mother Earth News. I used to really look forward to that magazine coming and getting into it, but it's sort of like Disney now. If you're not a gay farmer, you're not really a farmer. So that's my thought on the food shortages. I don't think they're going to be what they want them to be because, like, I'm not on board with it, and the big farms, they're not on board with it. They're not. I talked to a friend of mine. Hey, are these guys still getting their feeds? Yeah, they're not getting as much as they want, but they're still getting it. Everybody is still wanting to do what they do to make ends meet, and so the machine is still running. It's just that, like the Biden administration, and then local, make no mistake, like Department of Agriculture. I don't think there's very many patriots in the Department of Agriculture. They're mostly, weirdos. They're not made up of farmers, actually. You would think so, but not so much. And I think they're pretty on board with the whole Green New Deal thing. And our jobs are coming to an end because, this is a fraudulent deal here. And so let's help whoever's screwing things up. Let's help them. I think that's where they're at, it seems to me. So I don't think we're going to get any help from them. But private industry is what drives the machine. And if you are a chicken producer and you don't produce chickens, you don't eat. So just because they're saying this Wu flu thing, this other problem that they have, it doesn't mean people are going to just take it. We've been through this, right? We've already been through this. There's a lot of information to lead us to believe that, yeah, they have had this on the books for a long time. It's planned. So food shortages, no, I don't think so. I think they're just trying to scare people like they do with everything else. And I think that if you are concerned about it, do something about it. Do something about it right there. Start thinking about how am I going to feed my family and 4 other families on the road that I live on. How are you going to do that? And then start pulling people together and start planning. You might even make some friends, but don't rely on them to fix it. They're saying, yeah, you're going to be hungry this coming winter. Oh, please help us. Help us. No, don't rely on them. They're parasites. They're scumbags too. You really got to call a spade, nowadays. I know it's not popular. Old Jack turned me on to Owen Benjamin, and I mean, he is so politically incorrect. It is not funny, but he's also right about a lot of things. Can be very difficult to listen to, but he's right? And if they kill 90% of the chickens, I would say, Lenny, now's the time to go out and get that incubator you've been wanting. And you too, Inga. And Aaron, you too. Go get an incubator, right? And start raising chicks. You'd be just like Joe Kennedy during Prohibition. What do you got in an egg? If you do a little research and you find out what you need. So you would need several roosters. I think that you want to use who knows what the combination is for for Justin, you will know this. What's the combination for the White Mountain Vantress? Justin would know that. Give me a break here. Oh. But anyway, get the appropriate rooster, go out and find it, and then get the appropriate hens, and then start creating fertilized eggs. Save them up, learn how to do it. You can watch videos online about how to do it. You save up, and then you take those eggs, you put them in the incubator, incubate them, boop, you've got chicks. And then you start advertising them. I've got chicks on Facebook. Who needs chicks? You got a nice little business. So let's say you've got into an egg. Let's say that you have, you can do the figuring on it. What it costs to keep a chicken for a year, and she's going to give you approximately 150 eggs. So do the math on that. But then once it's a chick, you can probably get $2 or $3 for it. In today's money, or maybe you could get even a better service than today's money. You might be able to get some rutabagas or vegetables or some beef, something like that, and then start doing business in the community. Have these, I got bootleg chicken, so you'd be walking around with a jacket on with all these little pockets on the inside, and your jacket go out like this. You get a bunch of little chickens in there peeping. Yeah, it's an opportunity. Don't you have, right? If you want to see if this is going to be okay to do, like, hey, I just bought an incubator. Did I get put on a list someplace? Yeah, you got put on the same list as you would if you bought a milking machine for a cow, because raw milk's illegal, right? Go on some forums like Michigan homesteaders. Go on there and start talking about raw milk. See what happens. You'll get somebody that will say, well, raw milk's illegal. Some idiot will say that. And then and then if you want to test that, get a gallon of raw milk, put it on the seat next to you, and then cruise around until you find a state trooper, and then pull a hole shot in front of them, right? As you're taking a slug of whiskey, and when he pulls you over, see if you get cited for the raw milk. You won't, because raw milk is not illegal. It's just something stupid that people say. Just something stupid, So if the Department of Agriculture comes out and says, we're highly recommending all backyard flocks cease and desist. We're highly recommending it. Some idiot on Michigan homesteaders will say, well, the Department of Agriculture just outlawed chickens in Michigan. And the other idiots will say, oh, they did? I better get rid of mine. Where do I turn them in? Do I turn them in with the police department? Well, let me call the sheriff. And what do I do with these chicks? I heard they're illegal. I don't want to get caught with them. That's how weak-minded people are. That's how weak-minded you are. I would say a good thing to do right now, if you find a commercial brooder, buy it. A commercial incubator. Justin, this would be a good one for you. This is the way to give them the big middle finger. Just say, hey, I'm starting up a hatchery. Can you do that? Let's look at the Fifth Amendment, shall we? Let's do that. You bought an incubator. You're going to incubate hen eggs on private property with your own property. Who can stop you? Are you breaking a law? Has there been a law that's gone through? As weak and disgusting as the legislature is in the state of Michigan, they would not attempt to put a law through a bill outlawing, the hatching of eggs. They wouldn't attempt to do that. That would be a bridge too far. So here's what you do. You start incubating eggs. We really do need smaller, less centralized hatcheries anyway. We really do. So that would be a good thing to do. Okay. Excuse my language. All right. Inga says, what food shortage? I haven't walked into a store in 2 years and eating well. Yeah, that's because you're hooked up with a good farm, which they're coming up here to do a presentation on Tribe Day for goats, and I'm supposed to sit in on that class because some people think I have a problem with goats. I really don't. I don't. Okay, Barn Geek. I consider trial by jury as the only anchor ever yet imagined by man, by which government can be held to the principles of its constitution. Thomas Jefferson. We have a problem, and I'm sure that you are aware of this, but I'll just make the others aware of this. There was a real slick thing that was done. Grand jury is the meeting of the citizenry to bring charges against our elected officials, and the grand jury has been turned over to our elected officials. So that's a big problem. When you try to hold people at the county level accountable, you are actually turning to them to police their own, and it very rarely happens. However, today, a county clerk, can you check me on that? Somebody call an ambulance. No, could somebody check me on that, Aaron? Maybe the county clerk in one of the counties in Michigan was arrested today on federal charges. Now, when that happens, that's sort of like that Jenga game, and somebody just pulled out a kingpin. 83 counties, and a county clerk just went to jail. He was just arrested and is sitting in a jail cell on federal charges. Ooh. 83 counties. Inga, can I get an invite, please? Prohibition wiped out alcohol fuel options for now. For then. But there's no reason that you couldn't start up. Well, maybe there is. I shouldn't say that because I know that like ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, that there is a limit of how much alcohol you can distill, and I'm not sure. I don't know the law on that. It has to be a law, of course. Can't just be a regulation, but I think it has to be immediately denatured. That means you have to put something in it that you cannot drink it. But I don't know. Of course, like there'll be refineries that can make it and then make a good money on it, but we can't do it. Right? I agree, but my wife never wants to buy extra. There's a solution there, Lenny. She's the first one to starve. There's a movie you should watch. It's Jeremiah Johnson, right? Find the movie Jeremiah Johnson and go to the part where Jeremiah is sitting under the tutelage of Bear Claw Chris Lapham. I think that's his name. I am Bear Claw Chris Lapham. Yeah, that's what his name is. But anyway, it's played by Will Geer. Tremendous character. And at one point, Jeremiah says to him, when they're in the cabin and they're scraping hides and drinking whiskey and stuff, and Jeremiah says to him, "Do you ever get lonesome?" And Bear Claw says, "For what?" And he says, "Woman." And he says, "Full-time night woman?" And Jeremiah goes, "Yeah." And he says, "I loves the women, Pilgrim. I surely does. I packed me a squaw once. I packed me a squaw for 10 years," he says. "Cheyenne she were." Then he said a few other things that I won't mention. But he says, I lodge poled her at Dead Wolf Creek and traded her for a hawking gun. And he says, don't get me wrong, I loves the women's. I surely does. But he says, a woman's breast is the hardest rock that the Almighty ever created, and I can find no sign on it. And that was the last conversation they had about women. That's it. So whenever somebody says to me that their wife is limiting what they're doing, you know, like in their preparations, their farming operation or whatever, I said to them, you need to watch that. And if she doesn't let up, you need to lodge pole her at Dead Wolf Creek. Trade her in for a hawk and gun because she'd be more used to you. I hate to give, like dogmatic marriage advice, but we'll dedicate one night a week for like Ann Landers type stuff. Ask Mark what he thinks about that. Okay, Inga says, seriously, how many false pretenses have we heard? Prohibition, witch hunts, it's a long list. Gee, I don't know much about witch hunts. Maybe you do, Inga. Okay, Luann's with us. Where you been, woman? Fox News is the controlled opposition. They all suck. I agree. Tucker Carlson, you know, he knows, but he sits there and just goes, huh. Oh, so this is what our country is now. Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe it was you, Luann. Maybe it was you. Let me see. Then I will go back and look because I thought it was an excellent example of no. Yes. It's March 22nd, 2022, a Hunter Biden laptop from hell with Jack Maxey. He's one of them. He is one of them. Because he's basically telling you, this is our country. This is what we're up against. There's nothing you can do. I released it to the public. What came of it there, Jack? I believe they're throwing Hail Marys right now, it seems to me. Yep. Politicians are obsolete. We are the solution. It's up to us. That's right. I mean, turning to politicians for them to get anything done. First of all, they're really not in a position to do that. They're lawmakers, but they don't have that much pull, and the integrity level amongst them is so low. But they put on this act. You know, they wear the silk ties and the three-piece suits. There are grand jury investigations on Hunter's laptop, according to 107. We'll see. I'm not going to put any. I mean, the pictures have been out in the public for how long? You know, the guy's clearly fooling around with underage people. There's enough evidence to put him away forever. But I sometimes believe that a lot of these smaller scandals, well, that would be a big scandal, is just to help us to tarry for now. The real battle is going on behind the scenes. It's just like the Ukraine. I mean, if you listen to what the mainstream media says about Ukraine and you are weak-minded, you'll say, wow, those people, those Ukrainians, this is what Sean Penn said today. You've got runway models that are getting off the runway and they're locking and loading their AKs. Those T-72s don't stand a chance against those runway models. No, those babes can shoot, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the Russian military is definitely not like the United States military. I'm here to tell you. I mean, you all should know that. If you put a T-72 up against an Abrams, it's a turkey shoot. The Abrams will knock them down every single time. But it would probably not even get to that because the T-72s would be knocked out by air power long before they engaged with an Abrams, because we don't want to hurt our Abrams, and we can take the T-72s much easier with air power. But to think that the Russian military could go up against the Ukrainians, a volunteer group of people who were never been soldiers, and all of a sudden they're pulling up a truck and handing out AK-47s to people who have not handled weapons, to think that they're going to go up against professional soldiers in armor, in armored vehicles. It's ludicrous, right? So then what you've got going on now is they show you footage of a T-72 blowing up, and then some runway model going, yeah, got him. I think I'll go put my runway clothes back on. It's ridiculous. But people don't know military things. Like when I look at damage done to an apartment building, and basically you've got some cosmetic damage and broken windows, that is collateral damage. If a Russian fighter jet was going after an apartment building, which they wouldn't, the apartment building would be leveled. It would absolutely be leveled. They have the weapons to do that. I mean, those weapons aren't new. What that is collateral damage. There was most likely an engagement between air assets, or possibly there was aerial artillery that was fired at air assets, Russian air assets, and then it comes down, boom, blows up, and it does collateral damage like that. So what they're telling you about Ukraine, all of it is BS. It is all BS. If they're telling you that the Ukrainians are going to win this one, they're going to win this, they're going to lose this one. And most likely what it had to do with was that country, the Russians had to protect their assets. And a lot of the shenanigans that's going on in a place like Ukraine is totally corrupt. You can do anything you want there. If you want to set up a company and start building, bat flu stew pills, you can do it. So long as you pay off the right politicians, you can get anything done you want. So there's a good chance that there was very detrimental weapons laboratories that had been built there, and the weapons that they would create would be used to hold societies hostage with bioweapons. That's probably what was going on. And Putin said, nah, let's get in and get rid of those things. So they knocked them out. Apparently that's what it is. Because they don't need Ukraine. People are saying, well, Ukraine's got natural resources. Yeah, right. It's a bunch of hooey. So anyway, that part of the movie is going to play out. And whenever you see Hollywood getting involved and going, rah, 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 Ukraine, let's get the president of Ukraine talking at the Emmy Awards, you should know by now. It's the opposite, actually. It's the opposite. In this case, Putin might be a good guy. He might be. I just because he was KGB, it doesn't really mean that much. I don't know. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Politicians are obsolete. Okay. Vindicti is saying Conti Group controls most of the U.S. poultry. Henry Kissinger has been on their board for decades now, helping the communist agenda of food centralization. Oh, for sure. That's really what the whole war against small farms is. It really is. They want to centralize food because if you can control the food, you can control the people. And then, Kissinger was famous for that little quip that he put out there. So, do you want Hank Kissinger having control of your family? If you don't, then control your own food. That's all you have to do. But like a lot of you have to do it. And it's in your best interest to do it. So do you need me to really like twist your arm? Get out there and frickin' do it. I think there's a tremendous opportunity. Now that I'm saying this to you all, I'm going to find. I wonder if we'll find out here if Justin figured out which chickens we need to get. I think Plymouth Rock is one of them. Plymouth Rock and something else. All right, I think it's Plymouth Rock is the cock that we need. All right, but I'm thinking I want to get me a good incubator. I'd like to have a double decker incubator. Yeah, Aaron's right. Time to dust off the old incubator. I think I'd like to do that myself. Oh, Jim, you want to bring me that bag of char? I want to show the audience at home the progress that we've made. Very good. All right, thank you. So this is a 3.5 pound bag of biochar or biochar, depending on what part of the country you're in. And this is ground to perfection. You can kind of see. It's like coffee ground, maybe a little bit more coarse than that. And so we determined that per burn, we come up with a bag about like this, about 5 of them, 4 to 5 bags like this per burn. And we can do probably 2 burns in a day. So we're trying to decide exactly how we're going to proceed. The next thing is we have to do our labeling. And I have no desire to put this in any local stores or anything like that. This is going to be available at the farm, or you can get it on our website at www.theanyonecanfarm. You'll probably see a picture like this with me, and there'll be 3 grades. There'll be raw, there'll be inoculated, and there will be a 50-50 mix. A 50-50 mix will be 50% biochar. So this is about a 4 pound bag, I think. So there'll be 50%, 2 pounds of biochar and 2 pounds of high quality compost created right here at Baker's Green Acres. And what you would do with that is then we can talk about some instructions of how you can cut it down from there. Right? But basically what you're doing is you're bringing a medium of biological life onto your farm that's not there, right? So you're getting stuff from us that's quite diversified, right? And we kind of make it our business to collect up diverse bio life from all over the place. We've been doing it for a long time. I learned about this actually from going to be here on Tribe Day. If you guys come on Tribe Day, his name is Craig Schaff. And if this guy weren't such a humble guy, he would be a national icon. He is a very humble guy, but he knows a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of stuff. And he convinced me many years ago that I needed to start being in the collecting business, collecting carbon whenever I see it. So you see a pile of wood chips, and you think, pile of wood chips. No, take them. Take them. Hey, can I have these? Yeah, I'll shovel them in your truck for you. Take them. And because you're bringing on very diversified life onto your farm, and you want to do that whenever you can. He told me that he would go out with his kids. He has a bunch of kids like we do. And they would go out for, if it was a kid's birthday, the kid gets to spend part of the day with the dad, not working but doing something fun, which we don't exactly do that. And they would go out and they would go hunting for life hunting. So they would just drive around and, ooh, there's a pile of leaves. Let's get a baggie full of that. Oh, there's some, that dog just took a dump on the lawn over there. Go grab that, son. He never said that. I threw that in for fun. But this guy's going to be here, and he's going to be talking about seed saving. And I think he was talking about seed saving 10 years ago when, the world was at peace. And I think it's going to be a very interesting presentation. We're going to see about getting some of these presentations recorded, right? We want to find out if we can do that, and then have the whole Tribe Day thing, put it together so you can watch all of them. I mean, I think Frank is doing one on rabbits. Like, he's the rabbit guy around here, but he is also the bunny bopper too. So he even builds his own custom bunny bopping tool. Boop. And then he skins them and he sells them, and it's his money. It's his little business. All right. Luann is saying, everything has frequency. Being mindful of what we say and think is critical now. We create our own world. Some truthers are negative Nellies. I steer away from some of them. Yeah, right on. I mean, we're going to have a really rich heritage when we're building a rich heritage now. And like, I'm not waiting on my state representative to come by and say, well, Mark, we want to come and get involved with what you're doing. Stay where you are. Keep eating your macaroni and cheese, slob. I don't need their help. We're forging on ourselves. My county leadership is not going to initiate anything that is solution orientated. They're not. They're just not like that. They're just not like that. So don't look to them for answers. Create the answer. Like Aaron, today, your presentation on that gas fire was tremendous. You did it. That's why I highly recommend that when you guys create something, it doesn't matter how small it is. It'll have an effect on somebody, and share it on the tribe. Even if like you didn't create anything, okay, reenact something that you did create and share it on the tribe, or something you built, or maybe a poem that you wrote even, or a story about something that you countered. It'll have an effect on somebody. That's the whole idea. No man is an island, and we're here together to help each other and inspire each other. Okay, Inga says, I don't care about Hunter's laptop or Epstein or global warming. I'm creating my own world. If they succeed in no more chickens, buy quail, freeze dry eggs, underground chickens. Right on, sister. Preach it. Preach it, sister. Underground chickens. Yeah. The Underground Chicken Co-op. There you go, Keith. There's your calling right there. Interesting video by Brian Artist. He is investigating COVID being a poison put in our water. Apparently, the government has been doing a study on it. Yeah. Cliff High said that too. They will not be able to walk the streets. That was the 17th letter. I followed that right from the get-go. And it was a strange way that came on my radar screen. It was very odd how that came on my screen. That was right after I had run for county sheriff. And we weren't sure if we were going to stay here. I honestly did not want to stay here anymore. And the whole purpose for running for county sheriff was to get this under control. The departments are completely out of control. They're completely unchecked. Although now they seem to be laying their heads down low because they don't have the cover that they did to pull the things that they've been doing. But and of course I didn't win, but now we know about Dominion, and we actually knew who the president was before we knew who the county sheriff was. They didn't actually release it until the next day, and they wanted me to capitulate, but I was like, you guys don't even have it done yet? Oh no, we got some problems. Some late night ballots came in. Yeah, right. I mean, I was so naive. The gal that was helping us with the campaign, Lorna, actually, she said that you need to get people down at every one of these polling stations and watch what's going on. And we were like, no, we don't want the church ladies to think that we don't trust them. Well, we should have. We should have. Because, yeah, we should have. So anyway, but it turned out all right, because I would not have been able to have this platform if I'd have been the county sheriff, because then you're doing sheriff's business, and it's important business. And I really don't know is it would have worked out, because I was very gung-ho, and I'm no match for a lot of people that have been in this business a long time, the political business. And I don't think that I would have had the cadre around me to see all the pitfalls, and it might not have turned out so good. But this is good. This is good, what we're doing now. So I think it worked out the way it's supposed to. I know it did. Luann says it's all fear porn. Yeah, but we don't have to engage in it. It gets old, doesn't it? I mean, Angus says, I have to wonder about Cliff High. Where is he getting his intel? How is he one of the very few to know what's supposedly coming? Yeah, he does this thing where he is able to watch what the search, what do they call it? Algorithm? No, it's not algorithm. But anyway, whatever people are looking for is an indication of what is happening. And he's developed a way to kind of gauge that. And he's been correct a lot. He is really somebody that you should listen to. A lot of times I listen to him and it's like, over my head, I can't. Even listening to Jack Spirko today, it was like too hard for me to listen to. I had work to do, and I couldn't really listen to that. I just needed to like listen to tunes, just listen to, music from the 70s, and it puts me back in high school thinking about girls that I liked and stuff, right? But you listen to Cliff High, listen to Janine, listen to this one, that one, Brad Johnson. It's it doesn't matter. Things happen as they're going to happen. I think Brad Johnson is the one that has been the most helpful to me. Is like, hey, this is a movie. Doesn't it seem far-fetched what's going on? Yes, it does seem far-fetched, because it is. But it has to happen. This is how things are getting worked out. And so that makes sense. And he's in league with Janine. Of course, I like Janine, so. Okay. Andy says, my farm is protected by my Second Amendment. Right on. And your First Amendment, too. And the Fourth. And the Fifth. Okay, Luann says, Inga, he gets his intel mostly from his web bot data. Yeah. He is a computer linguistic. He's also a frickin' genius, and does his research. Angus says, killing thousands of birds to prevent them from dying of bird flu. What's wrong with this picture? Yeah, and you won't catch it if you eat those chickens. They just want to kill them and throw them in a hole, because they're Satanists and they love to waste. Let's all plant a victory garden is what our government should say right now. Right on. Right on. I don't think I've heard that once from Sleepy Joe. You know, hey, food shortages are coming. You guys probably ought to think about getting those gardens in this summer. I don't think I've heard that from him. I don't think I've heard him saying to the Department of this, that, or the other thing, get my best man down here now. How are we going to solve this problem? I don't think I hear that. Permies, Andy's saying Permies has a lot of good information, doesn't he? He really does. He's kind of a neat guy. Vindicti's saying there's an Arkansas Tribe Day for Owen Benjamin fans next month. And the flyer says there will be biochar. Right on. I kind of wonder what would happen if old Owen called me and said, hey, you want to come on my show? I'd have to say, yeah, Owen, but just don't say. Okay, Inga, when we sat in the Department of Ag meeting, Crystal and I were shocked at how much money they handed to government farms, yet Crystal got no financial help from them. Oh yeah. It's sanctioned criminal activity is what it is. Andy says, he says ingot, or I got 100 egg incubator. I could raise 1,000 a year. Just think, Vlad, if you sold them for $3 a piece. Okay, Andy. Okay, it's Plymouth White, and a Cornish Rooster is a Cornish cross. Plymouth White. Plymouth Rock White, huh? It's not Plymouth Rock. Plymouth White and a Cornish Rooster. Oh, Plymouth White hen and a Cornish Rooster is a Cornish cross. Okay. Hey, I wonder, I could probably do this on my own, but maybe while we're on, if you could see what is the combination for Freedom Ranger, which is my new favorite chicken. Thanks, Andy. Plymouth White and Cornish Rooster. I'm going to write that down. Because I think I'd like to start that. That would make a lot of sense. Cornish Roo. Okay. That'd be a nice little side business, wouldn't it? You never know. You might sell 5,000 of them. Also, he is an army brat. His dad was an army attaché for many embassies. I've got ancestor chickens to the cross going to experiment with it this year. Okay, cool. Finally got some raw milk today, first time in months. It's good stuff, isn't it? We had 2 of our customers canceled financial. They couldn't make it. And it wasn't so much, the price of the milk, it was the travel here. It's too bad. I don't like that, and I'm going to have a talk with Jill about that. We need to do something, especially for families with children. They need milk. Chickens and eggs, the newest and highest investment, soon to be better than gold. Yeah. The thing about chickens and eggs is you have to think about feed, So you got to get smart about chickens. And chickens are people have a misconception about chickens, like, oh, they should lay eggs all the time. And it's sort of like a robin. They don't lay eggs all the time. They lay a lot of eggs in the spring, and then, they taper off. And in the winter, they don't lay eggs. not that I know of anyway. And chickens are the same way. So you have to be able to keep them. And if you buy chickens, let's say at Tractor Supply, then your next step is going to be chicken feed. And you pay, wow, look at this bag of chicken feed. I just paid $20 for it. Wow, I could buy a lot of eggs with $20. And these dumb chickens aren't even going to start laying until they're 16 or 18 weeks old. So you have to think about that. Chickens, they're little scroungers. They'll eat lots of things. If you have a butcher shop on your farm, like I do, let's say that you butcher a pig and you have this massive intestine, right? We're not going to do anything with it. Oh, chickens know what to do with that. They will break that apart. They will eat every bit of it, and all the stuff that's in the intestines, that partially digested food, they will make short work of that. And you don't feed them for quite a while when that happens. Any fruit that you don't want, any vegetables you don't want, you can grow so many things. Growing crops for your animals, it really needs to be something that we consider, like sugar beets. What they did in the old days, I'm told, is they'd have a nail driven through the wall of the chicken house, and then you take a sugar beet in there and you put it on there, and then the chickens, when it's gone, you give them a couple more. And I've been feeding them to my chickens right along. Okay. Andy says we can hope. Andy says A-10 and the Russian tanks are smoking scrap metal. Yeah, A-10s. Did you ever read any of the stuff on the A-10? I am an aircraft aficionado. I read all about aircraft. I am an A&P mechanic. Although in the Air Force, I worked on age equipment, aerospace ground equipment, but I was around the planes all the time and traveled on them all the time and helped put bombs on them and other things. But the A-10 for a long time was a big failure. They didn't like them. And the generals were trying to say, get rid of these things. Let's replace them with F-16s. And they were trying to put kits on the F-16 so they could slow them down a little bit, but it didn't work out. And now the A-10 is the greatest thing since canned beer. It looks like they'll be around forever. For a while there, earlier in my career, they were all going over to the guard units. They were, and that was the word that regular Air Force isn't going to use these chunks and junks. And now I heard the other day, I saw the story. It was a legitimate story. They're going to mount 2 of those GAU-8s. A GAU-8 is the 30 millimeter Gatling gun that the airplane is built around. Right, A-10 has like a 20-foot long Gatling gun. It's like a multiple 6 or 8 barrel cannon that shoots a 30 mil, which is a big round. It's like that big a round. It's huge. The shells are that long. And they're going to mount them side by side, so they're going to have 2 of them. Did you hear anything about that? Can you imagine that? What that would sound like? I've heard them fire. It's phenomenal. Yeah. I like the A-10. I really do. But I really like the A-1E Sky Raider. And they did away with them. A-1E Sky Raider, when the A-10 came out, they were saying, no way. The Sky Raider is way better. It's got a prop on it, and we can slow it way down. It will carry just as much as the A-10, I think. Maybe not. Didn't have any armament on it. It didn't have any protection for the pilot, though. Okay, Ukraine is a hotbed of human trafficking. There are more tunnels under Ukraine than any other country in the world. I've heard that. I've heard Ukraine is bad. I've heard that Singapore is really bad, and these places are getting cleaned up. Ballistic says Putin is a Christian Orthodox. Don't you get a good feeling from him? Did you hear his last speech? And I know these days to say I support uh, Vladimir Putin, you'll get stoned most places. But that's just because the people have been hammered with the Russia thing. But I just don't get a bad feeling about him. I don't get a good feeling about Zelensky. I don't get a good feeling about anybody on the Democrat left. I mean, holy smokes. Any of them, they're gross. Maybe Tulsi Gabbard I kind of like. I do actually kind of like her. If she's truly female, I'm not sure. Okay, Plymouth White Hens, Cornish Rooster. Plymouth White Hens, Cornish Rooster. Okay, that's for Cornish Cross. Okay. Andy, how about we breed a Freedom Ranger meat bird with a Cornish rooster? Get on it. Justin, you're just the guy to do that too. Put your girls on that. Get you an incubator going. You can have a nice little side business there. Sell them on the idea. Yeah. Hey, that's something that we probably need to have at Tribe Day. Huh? If somebody, I know we're full. We've had way more people volunteer to teach than we have time or slots. But I think that would be a smart thing. Webbot data, Cliff, emotional data. Funny, when I get overwhelmed with intel, I watch Hallmark movies. Well, you know what? I watch stuff like that too. I like PBS stuff, but really PBS it's highly it's programming, right? Like, and I know this is going to sound a little weird. You guys are going to want to take my temperature on this, but we just watched this one. It was probably a 10-part series. It was called Crossing the Atlantic. I recommend it. It was about the crown princess of Norway and her crown prince husband, and the crown prince dad, the queen had passed away, and it was at the onset of World War II, and Norway was invaded by Nazis. And the whole slant on this thing is every time you see a German soldier, they just look evil, like sunken in cheeks and just dark eyes and doing really heinous things. And the whole thrust of this thing is just that you wind up hating Germans after you watch this. But everything that I've learned in the last couple of years, I mean, really learned facts about things, is we haven't always been told the whole truth. And you kind of wonder, what have we been misinformed about World War II? And you watch this PBS series, and it's very much anti-Nazi, very much, and pro-Holocaust, and all the things, and it kind of makes you wonder. Okay, Michael Madelli. Okay, I haven't seen your name on here, man. Welcome. He's saying Joe Rogan did a podcast with a guy named Graham Hancock. He mentioned a few times how South American Indian tribes made soil extremely fertile using biochar. Yes, that's true. I did not see that, but in the books that I have on biochar, they point to what they call terra preta. And there's a lot of pictures and all kinds of documentation. When they first found these, they would be round, they would be circles of extremely fertile soil, 32 hectares in diameter, or 32 hectares. I'm not sure I'm being accurate on that. But anyway, they were all about the same size. And when they were first discovered by, American scientists or explorers, they thought, oh, it's got to be aliens. It's a circular thing out there. The soil is bitter. In here, it's rich. How could, these huge tribes of Indians have supported themselves on the soil that's down here? They were agricultural based peoples, and they were not hunter gatherers because they stayed in one place. And they figured that, well, it must have been aliens that came and made the soil fertile, but actually it was the Indians that did that. And they'd find pottery and human remains and things like that. It's called Terra Preta. It's worth doing a little search on. Ooh, the ghost. How you doing, lad? He says there was a blackout of military flights in Asia and Europe today. Quite a few flights over Vancouver Island today. Tankers in cargo. Transponders switching on, off all day. Ooh. Military flights are being shown as usual now, wondering what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Taiwan is next. I think you're right. The Cleric 41. The Cleric 41. Is this the Cleric? I don't think so. This is somebody else. Okay, welcome. Late to the party, but man, they're all corrupt. And Tulsi is good on foreign policy, bad on domestic. In other farm news, everyone can farm. Right. A couple of flights under military flags an hour ago heading towards the Atlantic, registered to Netherlands and Poland. A couple of flights under military flags. Huh. Interesting. Are you still listening to Monkey Works? Because I cannot listen to him anymore. I just can't. There's too many inconsistencies. And I don't understand why there has to be inconsistencies. He totally lost me because he puts himself out there as an SF Air Force guy. And I know way too much about that. And he was not. I heard him interview on another podcaster who is Army SF. And of course, he went right after him on his military career and said, okay, what were you? Were you combat controller? Were you pararescueman? What'd you do? He says, well, actually, I was a pipeline student. And I was washed out for medical reasons. Oh, you weren't SF at all then? You were washed out in training, which most people are washed out in training for SF. Or Air Force calls it SO, Special Operations. And then he said, I was given the choice of being a cook or a B-52 crew chief. And so naturally I took the B-52 crew chief. Oh, that's nice. And then he says, yeah, I got something like 500 hours flying around in those little things. The only problem with that is crew chiefs don't go with the B-52s. The only enlisted person on the ship is the gunner. And they deleted that position in 94 93, I think, or 92. It was deleted. They took the guns out of the plane. There's no more guns on B-52s. There used to be, it was a quad 50 that was mounted aft, and then they put in a M61 20 mil Gatling gun, and they took them out. So I can't listen to him anymore. I just can't, because those inconsistencies and the whole thing with, he called a tail number, he called it Nancy instead of November. That's huge. And then he tried to say, oh, well, it's just easier. Well, I could see being out of the military for a while, you might not, although I would never do that. I would never say Nancy for the character N. I would never do that. But if I did, let's say, and somebody called me on it, I'd say, oh, yeah, you're right. I've been out a while, whatever. But he tried to justify it as, it's just easier. No, it's wrong, dude. It's wrong. And the reason why things are so uniform in the military is when we see something that is out of uniformity, it gets people's attention. Like when you drive on a military base and you see a bag lunch sitting by the side of the road, people will hit the brakes and stop and get out and cordon the area off, So I can't listen to him anymore. And I meant to talk to Andy about that when he was up here, but I don't know. Anyone stacking silver or buying crypto to hedge inflation? Yeah, we have a little bit of both. Just, I don't know. I think precious metals are smart. I don't know about crypto. I just don't get it. Yeah. Ghost is agreeing with Luann. PBS is programming funded by Bill Gates Rockefeller. I used to raise money for PBS for years until I woke the F up. Yeah. Yeah. Could Joe do a Zoom call on Tribe Days so we can meet all? Bonnie, come on. Maybe. A Zoom call? Wouldn't it just be a walk around with a camera? Like a live call? Let me ask him about it. Onwood Acres Farm. You should watch the 2020 movie Rams about a group of shepherds in Australia that have all the sheep in their valley slaughtered because one of them tested positive for disease. I can't stand stuff like that. When it comes to those things, and Owen goes into this in depth on, I forget what show it was. I probably should find it again, but he talks about when these agencies come to you, they get you to voluntarily do what they want done. Like when we went through the thing with the pigs, there were many farmers who voluntarily, who were told to slaughter their animals, and they did it. They did it themselves. And then there was a couple of us that said, no, not doing it. And they would bear down on you with threats of fines and threats of arrest and threats of, CPS and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you say not doing it, we still don't live in a country. I mean, as much as these agencies would really love to just roll in, cuff you, and then spray your animals with machine gun fire, they would love to. They would love to. They can't, right? They want you to do it. They want your hand to be the one that does it. They want to order you to do it, and then you do it. So when it comes down to these things that they ask you to do, just refuse. Just, no, I won't do it. And then they'll usually try to sweeten the deal. Well, if you don't, then you'll go to jail as well. Well, then go for it. You always have to throw it back in their court and say, then let's see you do it. It's easy to make threats. How about if I make threats? How about you touch one of my animals and I'm going to put your face in the mud? How about that? You try it, Junior. You try it. You make a threat like that, and then, now you're a dangerous person, right? But they can threaten you all day long. But I don't know as that's working out too well, because at least in Michigan, we have Michigan State Police, young men and women, that are not on board with that bullshit. And that's why I give them a pass. Of all the departments, I think they're a pretty reputable organization. And we have to acknowledge that and tell them, hey, we got you. You know, we got your back. And I think that, you know, they're law enforcement. And when they see these agencies breaking the law, you know, they don't like that too well. That's been my experience with them. The Ghost. Never into monkey works. Seen a few videos when necessary. I'm just turning on the ADS-B exchange with logs real-time transponders. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know what Ghost is talking about, aircraft have what's called a transponder that puts out a beacon that says who they are. And on civilian aircraft, they cannot turn it off. You cannot access it from inside the airplane. It can only be accessed from the outside of the airplane. But on military, mil flights, they can access it from inside the aircraft. So the pilot can choose to turn his transponder off, and then he's flying. They see him on radar, and it's not always a good thing to do because, hey, we got you on radar, but we don't know who you are. So usually, if a mil flight is going to turn off his transponder, arrangements have been made. Or else, you know, what, and to round out the picture here, we got Andy on board here, and he was an F-15 guy, but what the Air Force does, the primary mission that the Air Force does in the United States, is they secure the dome over the United States. If anything comes into that dome and we don't know what it is, they're scrambling 24-year-old pilots in high-performance airplanes, and they are getting them into a vectored position where if the controllers say, let one go, they're going to fire a missile, and whatever it is going to be vaporized. And so that's how serious it is. And other aircraft know that. Like, you don't want some 24-year-old in an F-16 that's given an order to vaporize you. You don't want that. And whenever an aircraft is flying and maybe they veer off of their flight plan, which happens, and maybe maybe it's like a FedEx plane or something like that. You got two pilots in the front, pilot and the co-pilot. They both nod off, which isn't, you know, they're on autopilot and they just nod off. They both don't have their radio on or something. They're going to get an F-16 come up right beside them and look in. Or get up close to him, and then his radio is so powerful that even if they don't have their radio on, his radio is so powerful he'll turn it on and get a visual from them like, hey, everything's cool here. Put your radio on. Yeah, we're all right. Sorry, we just dozed off or whatever. You know, and United States Air Force scrambles in a year up to 100 times for things like that. A lot of things like that happen. And sometimes things as innocuous as a drunk passenger on an airliner, they will scramble jets. I don't know if they do that anymore now that they secured the cockpits, but you know, that's really what the Air Force is there for in the United States, is to secure the skies over America, and they take it very seriously. So when things happen where security is breached and nobody knows why, it needs to be questioned. And we've seen that happen in a couple incidents in the last 20 years. Kind of troublesome. Okay. Yeah. That reminds me of the African president who tested goats and pawpaw fruits. The fruit tested positive too. And I think he committed suicide, didn't he? A lot of those guys that weren't on board with the whole COVID narrative didn't fare too well. But I think the COVID narrative is over as soon as Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, right? That was. Oh no, was that it, or was that the? No, it was Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine ended it. Onward Acres was a cool movie because it was about how one of them managed to hide his sheep from the government whack jobs. Sounds like a downer until you see how the guy gets away with it. Lane Buck 52, hi tribe. My cat set a record this morning. I scrambled eggs one at a time. She didn't stop until the third one. She likes them best if they're only lightly cooked. I'm getting about 14 to 18 from 20 hens. Right on. Okay. The Ghost is saying, I see Orion aircraft take off from Comex. They'll shut the transponders off before they head out into the Pacific. What he's talking about, I happen to know that airplane pretty good. It's a P-3 Orion. It is a Lockheed C-140 is what it is. It's a low winger, and the Navy uses them. They're sub chasers, and they drop sonar buoys, and they drop them, and then they can monitor the ping that's going out. And usually the way it works now, just so you know, every sub that was ever built, once it's located, we don't lose them anymore. So the Orions go out and they do stuff, and they see if they can locate something that, that maybe we don't about, or do mapping and things like that. But once we locate a sub now, we never lose them. They have ways. The outfit that I work for in Maine, this is kind of interesting, and it is not classified, so I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't. But the B-52s that I worked on had what they call a maritime mission, right? And the maritime mission was to drop a munition. They dropped them in places. I don't know, maybe where they dropped them. I don't know. I mean, I don't specifically know. But they drop them, and this munition they called it a coffin, and it was pretty long. It was 30 feet long, and I never did see what was in it, but they told us that there was a torpedo in it. So they dropped this munition, it would float to the bottom, and so long as the shipping traffic was putting out the correct signal, it stayed closed, and the torpedo just sat there. And then periodically the Navy would go out there and retrieve them, and the bombers would go out and drop new ones because they had to service them. They called them mines. They called them mines, but they weren't exactly like the mine that runs into. They're mines that are sitting on the bottom, and then if something comes by that's not supposed to be there, they open up and fish swims out, and it blows up boats. Okay, I heard this too, Inga. Pfizer's about to finish trial for that hair fallout disease. Funny how Pfizer sponsors the Oscars. And it's funny how Pfizer made a product that when people take it, their hair starts falling out. Problem, reaction, solution. Will Smith. That was so weak. Out your mouth. Keep my wife's name out your freaking mouth. Outcho. Like, I don't think he talks like that. He's not real hood. He's not a hood type guy. But anyway, that's our show for tonight. I'm gonna get going. Wow, we're way over. Ooh, that was a 2-hour show. 2 hours and 2 minutes. I did not think I was going to have a very good show. I was feeling pretty weak. It was cold. I didn't get much done today. I put it that way. My tractor got picked up today and is getting taken to a shop to get some service done on it and some things that need to be fixed. Really interesting conversation with the technician. He's a retired guy that just wants to stay busy. So he's got a real nice truck and trailer, and I'm glad I got his phone number. I hope things work out good. If they do, I'm going to share the business with you all. You guys in Michigan, anyway, if you need service done on your equipment. Okay, I'm going to get going. Let's remember April 16th is coming up, our Seed Savers Day or Seed Swap Day. And if you don't have seeds to swap, you can bring anything you want, swap it. Or you don't have anything, just come, bring some food and swap that. We're just going to hang out for the day here. Hopefully we get a beautiful day. I think we should. It's supposed to be. And then the next thing after that is going to be July 9th. That's going to be our Tribe Day. It's going to be a biggie. Good night. Remember, anyone can farm.